What's up, football fans, and welcome to Tim Reynolds Show's NFL Week 3 previews and predictions as we're going over all the matchups over the weekend for Week 3 in the 2024 NFL season. And we're going to start off with my Tampa Bay Buccaneers taking on the Denver Broncos, as the Buccaneers will be at home at Raymond James Stadium, with the Broncos coming into town winless so far early on in the season, and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are coming off an upset win against the Detroit Lions in Week 2, and we will see a really good matchup here of rookie quarterback Bo Nix going up against this stingy Tampa Bay Buccaneers defense that was really able to shut down the Detroit Lions offense last week. And we'll also see a matchup against this Tampa Bay Buccaneers offense led by quarterback Baker Mayfield and wide receivers Chris Godwin and Mike Evans. But we're going to really need to see this Tampa Bay Buccaneers offense get the running game going if they want to try to find offensive balance so far early in the season. And especially going up against a kind of weak, not so good Denver Broncos defense so far after the first 2 weeks, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers offense is going to look to take advantage of that, as the Tim Reynolds Show is predicting that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are going to win this game Week 3 against the Denver Broncos. And we're moving on to our next game of the weekend, guys, as it's the Miami Dolphins taking on the Seattle Seahawks. The Seattle Seahawks at home are always a tough team to play against, and the Miami Dolphins come into this matchup a little hampered and injured, as starting quarterback Tua Tagovailoa has been put on IR and will not be in this game, and they will start backup quarterback Skylar Thompson for the Miami Dolphins in this one. And as Skylar goes up against a Seattle Seahawks defense that's been really good so far after 2 weeks of the season, I really do think it's going to be a difficult time for this Miami Dolphins offense going forward. But when you have weapons like Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle and Devon Achane and Raheem Mostert in the backfield, you got a chance. Now, there is questions on whether Raheem Mostert will be able to play in this game, as he's on the injury report still this week. And then also for the Seattle Seahawks, they've really played really well through the last 2 weeks, and they really look to get this offense rolling some more, even though they're going to be without their starting running back. Kenneth Walker III will be out of this game with an injury once again. I believe it's an oblique injury, if I'm not mistaken. But quarterback Geno Smith is the one to look out for in this matchup, as Geno always seems to come into the clutch when he needs to, and this offense is humming. And Tim Reynolds Show is going to predict that the Seattle Seahawks are going to get the victory in this matchup, because I just think the Miami Dolphins aren't going to be able to keep up with their backup quarterback on that offense. But hey, anything can happen. Best of luck to the Dolphins in that, but I do predict that the Seattle Seahawks will get the victory in this one, and they'll move to 3-0 on the season. And then moving on to the next matchup of the weekend, guys, as we're going to the New York Giants taking on the Cleveland Browns. As the Cleveland Browns return home after getting their first win in Week 2 in Jacksonville against the Jacksonville Jaguars. And the Giants are still looking to get their first win on the season, as they're 0-2 so far early on. And man, this is going to be a battle of what offense that's not really that great can put up more points than the other one, right? Daniel Jones and this New York Giants offense hasn't really been that good so far early on in the season after the first 2 weeks. But of course, Malik Nabers, the rookie wide receiver, is finally getting his rhythm going in that offense. So hopefully Daniel Jones can find a little more balance in the running game and getting the ball to Nabers as far as getting good passing yards in this matchup to maybe have a chance to win. But hey, against a stingy Cleveland Browns defense that's always been one of the best in the league and still has proven that a little bit early on in the season, I do think it's going to be a tough test for this New York Giants football team. But as far as the Cleveland Browns go, we've seen Deshaun Watson in this offense sort of get themselves back together and have a really good bounce back game against the Jaguars, but I just don't know if that's going to be enough for them, if we've seen enough balance, if we've seen enough cohesiveness from this offense in order to really trust them. But with this really tough Cleveland Browns defense, I think Tim Reynolds Show is going to have to roll with the Cleveland Browns in this one, as I'm not really scared of the New York Giants defense. They're pretty good. They got some playmakers on there, but I do think the Cleveland Browns are going to be able to make enough plays on offense to be able to win this game, led by their running game, which you know is always good even without Chubb in the backfield. Ford's been doing a pretty good job for the Cleveland Browns thus far, but man, watch out. This could be a close game between both of these teams on the weekend in Week 3. Then going on to our next matchup, guys, we see the Green Bay Packers taking on the Tennessee Titans, who are winless so far on the year, but this could be a revenge game, as there is a chance that backup quarterback Malik Willis will be the starter again for the Green Bay Packers in this one, as he returns to Tennessee Titans, the ones who drafted him a few years ago before he was traded early on in the year. Now, the Titans are still looking to get their first win, even though they've been very good on the defensive side of the ball. The offense has just been full of mistakes, making wrong moves moves, wrong passes, wrong choices, and turning the ball over just way too much for this Tennessee Titans football team to be successful this year. But with a defense like they got, watch out. They still might be able to turn things around, because once you play good defense and hopefully can run the football, you'll be really good in this league. Now, taking on the Green Bay Packers, I think the Packers are standing alone as one of the really good teams in the NFC, and I think they're out to prove that after a tough loss in week 1 to the Philadelphia Eagles, but a good bounce back game last week to get their first win of the year. But it's all a question about how this offense is going to flow, right? If Jordan Love is able to come back, which there are reports that he's been able to practice for 3 straight days this week, that hopefully he'll have a chance to come back sooner rather than later, but you don't want to push this guy back too soon with an MCL sort of injury. So with that being said, I still think the Green Bay Packers have a big chance of winning this game with their backup quarterback, because this offense is so dynamic and they're able to just run the ball down people's throats with Josh Jacobs. So in Tim Reynolds' preview and predictions, the Tim Reynolds Show is going to predict that the Green Bay Packers will get the victory in this one in Tennessee against the Tennessee Titans, and we'll see the Green Bay Packers move to 2-1 on the year and the Tennessee Titans winless at 0-3, and that's our prediction. Now, moving on to the next game, guys, we got the Chicago Bears taking on the Indianapolis Colts. And man, who would have thought both these teams come in with only 1 win total on the season so far? The Chicago Bears losing last week on Sunday Night Football to the Houston Texans in a tough one. And then the Colts, man, they've looked pretty decent overall, but just haven't gotten things put together in order for them to get a win so far early on in the season. So this one's going to be a really interesting matchup between not only both of these offenses and these defenses. Who is going to be able to be the team to make the plays necessary in order for them to be able to win in this matchup? I mean, for me, Anthony Richardson is a great quarterback. He's able to make those big splash plays that you want to see from the quarterback position, but he's got to get a little more consistent and getting the ball out quicker, because you got to set up your protections the way you want as a starting quarterback and be able to not take so many sacks or turn the ball over so much in order to make sure you keep your team in it. And this Colts defense has to learn to stop the run and be hopefully be able to get better on the defensive side of the ball if they want a chance at getting their first win in this particular matchup. But hey, the Chicago Bears defense is really, really stingy, and they're bound to hopefully force a couple of turnovers in here to give the Bears a chance, because that's been the only chance they've had. This offense for the Chicago Bears has been abysmal. They haven't been able to run the ball. They still don't have a passing TD on the season, so you're hoping that rookie quarterback Caleb Williams can get himself together with the Chicago Bears offense. But as far as my prediction on Tim Reynolds Show, we're going to predict that the Colts are going to win this one at home in Lucas Oil Stadium there and get their first win on the 2024 season. And I think the Chicago Bears are still going to have to try to find themselves and get themselves together on the offensive side of the ball. I think the Indianapolis Colts are going to be able to make more plays than the Chicago Bears in this particular matchup, as we're rolling with the Colts here on Tim Reynolds Show. And then going to our next matchup of the weekend, guys, the Houston Texans are taking on the Minnesota Vikings. Minnesota Vikings are at home in this one, which is probably a big advantage going up against a tough team from the AFC, but the battle Vikings of the North. That's right. Minnesota Vikings have proven themselves to be a contender so far early on in the season, as quarterback Sam Darnold has really been doing his stuff with this Minnesota Vikings offense, led by head coach Kevin O'Connell, as he's got the offense humming. Aaron Jones is doing his thing. Justin Jefferson is doing his thing, which reports are saying that he should be okay and good to go on Sunday, even though he injured his quad or upper leg in last week's game. So watch out for that. But hey, this Minnesota Vikings offense and defense is legit. The defensive coordinator leads this defense as Flores really knows how to call the defensive plays for this Minnesota Vikings defense. So this should be a really, really good matchup for them against a very powerful, high-potent style Texans offense led by quarterback C.J. Stroud and all the weapons that he's got out there to his disposal. I think this is going to be a really, really good game on the weekend, but Tim Reynolds Show is going to go with the Houston Texans prediction in this one, as I think they're going to get the victory in this particular matchup, which I think has a chance of being the best matchup of the weekend so far. It's going to be close, but I do think that the Houston Texans will get the win over the Minnesota Vikings and get Minnesota Vikings their first loss early on in the 2024 NFL season. And then moving on to our next match, guys, we have the Philadelphia Eagles taking on the New Orleans Saints. This is going to be a really interesting matchup, as the Saints have been coming out earlier on in the season on fire, especially on offense, scoring on every single offensive possession so far early on in the season. That is crazy to think about. Over 90 points so far after 2 weeks of the NFL season. That is just crazy. Watch out, man. This New Orleans Saints offense is legit, but their defense is also full of veteran playmakers as they go up against an Eagles team that looked pretty good in week 1, but definitely did not look good on Monday Night Football in week 2. Losing that game late to the Atlanta Falcons looked bad for this Philadelphia Eagles defense, and I don't know if they're going to be able to hold on strong against this New Orleans Saints offense, who has been so high-powered so far early on in the year. And right here on Tim Reynolds Show, my prediction is it's going to be the New Orleans Saints get the victory in this one over the Philadelphia Eagles. I just think the Eagles have struggled a little bit too much on the defensive side of the ball. And on the offensive side, I mean, what else can you really say for the Philadelphia Eagles? They look good at times, but then don't look together or really, like, I should say, like as a cohesive team, as a cohesive offense, as a consistent offense, right? So this is going to be one of those things where they have to kind of get through these sort of humps, I think, on the season on the offensive side of the ball for the Philadelphia Eagles. So Tim Reynolds Show is predicting New Orleans Saints get the win in this particular week 3 matchup. And then going on, guys, to our next matchup of the weekend, the Los Angeles Chargers taking on the Pittsburgh Steelers, as the Steelers will be at home in this matchup. And I think that's going to be a big advantage for them, as the Steelers defense has been really dominant the past first 2 weeks of the season. And with the Chargers coming in hampered a little bit on injuries, as we hear starting quarterback there, Justin Herbert, could be questionable really if he's able to play in the game at all. He could be under 100% as he goes into this matchup after injuring his ankle the previous week against the Carolina Panthers. So in this particular matchup, with the Steelers having such a good defense and Justin Fields in line to start for the Pittsburgh Steelers in week 3 on this one, after he's been really getting the offense to be consistent and really balanced on that offensive side of the ball, Tim Reynolds Show is going to predict that the Pittsburgh Steelers are able to get a win in week 3 over the Los Angeles Chargers in this one, giving the Chargers their first loss early on in the season. And then moving on to our next matchup, guys, we have the Carolina Panthers taking on the Las Vegas Raiders. Now, the Panthers are coming in with a new starting quarterback after the news early on in this week that backup quarterback Andy Dalton will now be the starter for the Carolina Panthers in this particular game, and going up against the Las Vegas Raiders defense that was able to upset and get the victory over the Baltimore Ravens last week. I really do think you're going to see them really cause a lot of fits for Andy Dalton and those Carolina Panther offensive players and their scheme. But going forward, this Las Vegas Raiders offense is hoping to get a little bit more consistency themselves, with quarterback Gardner Minshew now having the backing of the defense themselves, of the whole team, and leader Max Crosby, as that was shown last week in that game against the Ravens, where he was able to lead them to a victory. I really do think that they will be able to get the win in this one, as Tim Reynolds Show is predicting that the Las Vegas Raiders will be able to get the victory over the Carolina Panthers in this one, as the Carolina Panthers were going to move to 0-3 on the season, winless so far early on the season, struggle. And then moving on to our next matchup, guys, is the Baltimore Ravens taking on the Dallas Cowboys. Now, this is probably the most intriguing matchup of the weekend. Why? Because Baltimore Ravens are really itching for a win after 2 close calls in the first couple weeks of the season. And this Baltimore Ravens offense needs to find more balance and run the football better. That's the identity of Lamar Jackson in this offense. And especially with Derrick Henry in the backfield, you have got to feed him the ball. You have got to run the rock. And let's hope the Baltimore Ravens are able to do this in this one, because their defense has been suspect at best and really given up too many leads and too many points over the last couple of seasons late in games. So you're hoping they get that figured out, especially in this one, going up against a high-powered offense led by quarterback Dak Prescott for this Dallas Cowboys team, and also wide receiver CeeDee Lamb. You guys, they're looking to ball out. Now, we know Lamb is coming in a little bit hampered as he showed up on the injury report this week, but he is expected to play in this game, as far reports say so far on this Football Friday here before week 3 of the NFL season. But watch out, man. These Dallas Cowboys are going to look to prove something, especially after this defense looked, in other people's words, so soft last week against the New Orleans Saints, with all the points and everything that they gave up against them in that week 2 matchup. But man, Tim Reynolds Show, as far as our prediction for this game, man, I'm rolling with the Baltimore Ravens to get the upset win over the Dallas Cowboys in this one. Upset because I know a lot of the experts are going to pick Dallas probably to win this game, but I think that the Baltimore Ravens are going to come in a little bit more desperate than Dallas is, and they're going to prove something and get a little bit more balance and running game on that offensive side of the ball, as Tim Reynolds Show is predicting the Baltimore Ravens will beat the Dallas Cowboys in Week 3. And then moving on to our next matchup, guys, over a Californication. That's right. We got two California teams as the Los Angeles Rams will be battling at home against the San Francisco 49ers. And man, both of these teams come in full of injuries. I mean, guys, I could spend a whole show here talking about the injuries for both of these teams. I mean, McCaffrey's out. We got reports that tight end George Kittle's not playing. We already know Deebo Samuel's out and might be going on IR, but hasn't been put on it yet. And the Rams, I mean, they're losing 2 or 3 offensive starting linemen as far as injuries are concerned. They're losing both of their starting wide receivers with Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp being out. So, like, a lot of injuries, guys. This is going to be a very interesting matchup as the Rams are still looking for their first win on the season. But as far as the prediction on Tim Reynolds Show, I got to roll with Brock Purdy and the San Francisco 49ers. I just think that their defense is going to show up better in this game, especially with all the injuries that the Los Angeles Rams are experiencing right now at their playmakers and at the offensive line. I just think that the San Francisco's defense is going to be what's able to dominate this game and able to get the win for the Niners in this matchup. Going on to our next one of the day, guys, we have the Detroit Lions taking on the Arizona Cardinals. A very intriguing matchup in this one, as the Cardinals have really surprised a lot of people, especially with how good they look on offense, as quarterback Kyler Murray is returning to form, looking like prime Kyler Murray, able to do what he does. And Marvin Harrison Jr. looks like a baller on the outside at wide receiver for this Arizona Cardinals offense. But you also have some ballers yourself on this Detroit Lions offense who are looking to bounce back after a kind of rough start last week and just a rough red zone performance, as they were 1 for 7 in the red zone against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers last week. So this Detroit Lions team is coming in with a little chip on their shoulder, looking to bounce back against a tough Arizona Cardinals team who is at home. But I do think that Jared Goff in this offense, and then St. Brown, who is all reports should be good with his injury so far heading into this game, I think the Detroit Lions are going to be able to run the ball a little bit more and play a little bit better on defense. And even though the Arizona Cardinals haven't been that great on defense, I do think that they're not going to be able to hold up to the offensive power that the Detroit Lions should have as they look to bounce back in this game. And the Tim Reynolds Show is predicting the Detroit Lions will get the win in Week 3 over the Arizona Cardinals in this particular matchup. Then moving on to our Sunday Night Football, guys, where we got the Kansas City Chiefs taking on the Atlanta Falcons. And the Atlanta Falcons are at home in this one, as Kansas City Chiefs, though, are favored as they come in 2-0 on the season. And we're looking at this high-powered offense for the Kansas City Chiefs to really take advantage of points available to them going up against this Atlanta Falcons defense, who has been suspect at best, but they actually had a pretty decent performance late in the game against the Philadelphia Eagles. So maybe this Atlanta Falcons defense and team can bounce and feed off of that, because they definitely can with their offensive performance late in the game on Monday night, as quarterback Kirk Cousins for the Atlanta Falcons was able to come back and get them to victory in that one, a 1-point victory. And I know they're probably feeling the momentum charge after that big win in prime time on Monday night. But with the Kansas City Chiefs coming in, their defense playing stingy and very, very good football, very sound tackling from this Kansas City Chiefs defense, I really do think that it's going to be the Kansas City Chiefs getting the win in this one, even though they're at Atlanta against the Atlanta Falcons, as Tim Reynolds Show is predicting the Kansas City Chiefs defeat the Atlanta Falcons in Week 3. Then moving on to our next matchup, guys, as we have 2 Monday Night Football games coming up this week, and we have the Jacksonville Jaguars traveling to take on the Buffalo Bills, and the Buffalo Bills are coming off a little bit of a high, 2-0 on the season, especially after they beat the Miami Dolphins in primetime on Thursday night, feeling good about themselves. And the Jaguars, guys, man, as anyone who's a Jaguars fan, it has been tough watching this team the past 2 weeks, as they just haven't looked consistent on either side of the ball. Not on defense, not on offense. So you're hoping to see Trevor Lawrence get this thing together with the Jaguars offense and hope to make a competitive game against a tough Buffalo Bills defense, who, even though has been hampered by a lot of injuries of late, Josh Allen is still doing his thing for the offense, and Von Miller is leading that defensive side of the ball there for the Buffalo Bills to do a really, really good job, I think. And Tim Reynolds Show is predicting that the Buffalo Bills are going to be able to get the win in this one, unfortunately knocking the Jacksonville Jaguars to 0-3 on the season, because I just don't think the Jaguars are going to be able to get their stuff together and consistently in order to beat this Buffalo Bills team. Now, I do think it's going to be a little bit closer than the experts think. Right now, it's a 5-point spread. I really do think, though, that the Buffalo Bills, led by Josh Allen, will get the win in this one. The first matchup here on Monday Night Football, and then going on to our second matchup, the doubleheader for Monday Night Football, as we see the Washington Commanders traveling to take on the Cincinnati Bengals. And man, the Bengals are looking for a bounce back. 0-2 on the season, losing opening week to the New England Patriots, and then a tough sort of choking sort of loss last week as the refs sort of bailed out the Kansas City Chiefs last week, but they really shouldn't have had that sort of play there from the Bengals defense, as they really need to look to prove things going forward and do a better job in order for the Cincinnati Bengals team to have any chance looking forward to the playoffs in the 2024 season. But you know, Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase, and from what we know, T. Higgins should be suiting up and playing his first game of the season so far on this one, as all reports have said. You know, this Bengals offense is looking for some more firepower and looking to prove that they are still going to be a competitor in this league. And Commanders, man, best of luck to you guys, because I know that defense has played suspect at best, really, for the Washington Commanders. They have a pretty good offense led by rookie quarterback Jalen Daniels, who's been playing pretty dang well so far, probably the best of all the rookie quarterbacks thus far early in the year. But Tim Reynolds Show is predicting that the Cincinnati Bengals are going to get the victory in this one on Monday night to get their first victory of the 2024 season, as they look to bounce back after a rough start early on and look to show that they are a contender for the playoffs in 2024. So this has been your NFL Week 3 preview and predictions from Tim Reynolds Show. Thank you guys so much for checking out the channel. Make sure you guys hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and check out Tim Reynolds Show for more NFL content, more football content, including college football, and some skits and some funny stuff that we like to do. Some Football Fridays where I do some live podcast talk, usually try to get some questions and some comments from you guys, but also just love hearing your guys' feedback on any of my videos that I make, as I also do some NASCAR race reviews and my WWE show reviews. So make sure you guys check that out for this channel. This sports entertainment right here you can only get from Tim Reynolds Show. Thank you guys so much. Peace out, everybody. And to everybody who made it to the end of this video, you guys rock. Appreciate you. You guys are the champs that make it to the end, that represent, that really help a brother out. Thank you. You guys are the shit. I appreciate y'all. Thank you, thank you, thank you from the bottom of my heart. Just a boy from Florida, a redhead looking to make something of himself, man. Following my dream to be a YouTuber right here, my own sports channel, my own sports entertainment YouTube channel. Let's go, baby. Thank you so much, guys. Have a good football weekend. Let's go. This is Tim Reynolds Show. Let's fucking go.